You ever wonder what it's like to slip through a world that doesn't see you? To move like a ghost, untouchable, while everyone else is asleep, dreaming their safe little dreams? That's what I do. Or did. I'm not sure anymore. My name's not important, not the one I was born with, anyway. In my line of work, names are just costumes you wear until the job's done. Call me Shade. It's what they called me on the street, back when I was the best. Back when I thought I could outrun anything. I'm not here to glorify it. Stealing's not glamorous, no matter what the movies tell you. It's cold, it's lonely, and it's a game where the house always wins eventually. But there's a rush to it, a pulse in your veins when you're standing in a room full of someone else's secrets, knowing you're not supposed to be there. That's what kept me in it for 10 years. That, and the money. Always the money. I'm telling you this story because I need to. Not because I want forgiveness or because I'm proud of it. I need to get it out before it eats me alive. This was my last job, the one that broke me. They paid me to break in. Getting out? That was something else entirely. It started with a phone call. Anonymous, of course. Burner phone, voice distorted, the usual dance. I was in a dive bar in Chicago, nursing a whiskey I didn't intend to finish, when my pocket buzzed. Most people in my line of work don't take calls from strangers, but I'd been dry for months. The jobs were getting scarcer, cops were cracking down, tech was getting smarter, and I was getting older. 32 doesn't sound old, but in this game, it's ancient. Your hands aren't as steady, your nerves aren't as steel. So when the call came, I listened. Shade, the voice said, low and mechanical, like it was run through a cheap vocoder. I have a job. Big payout. You in or out? I leaned back in the booth, scanning the bar. Nobody was watching. Nobody ever was. Details, I said. Penthouse. Downtown. Private client. One item. One night. 500 grand. I almost laughed. $500,000 for a single lift? That's the kind of number that screams setup. Or suicide. What's the catch? No catch. Clean in, clean out. You'll get the specs tomorrow. Yes or no? I should have said no. Every instinct I'd honed over a decade screamed it. But $500,000? That's retirement money. That's a one-way ticket to a beach in Mexico, no questions asked. I thought about my empty bank account, the landlord breathing down my neck, the way my hands shook sometimes when I tried to sleep. I thought about getting out for good. Yes, I said. The line went dead. The next morning, a courier dropped a package at my door. No return address, no name, just a plain manila envelope. Inside was a USB drive and a single sheet of paper with an address, 875 North Michigan Avenue. The John Hancock Center. One of the most secure buildings in Chicago. I knew it well, not because I'd ever hit it, but because every thief in the city had dreamed of it. 99 floors of steel and glass, crawling with cameras, guards, and enough tech to make Fort Knox look like a corner store. The USB drive had everything: floor plans, security schedules, camera angles, even the specs for the penthouse's private elevator. The target was a safe in the master bedroom, hidden behind a false panel in the closet. Inside the safe? A single item, a data drive, no bigger than a pack of cigarettes. The client didn't say what was on it, and I didn't ask. You don't last long in this game by being curious. The job was simple on paper: get to the penthouse, crack the safe, grab the drive, and get out. The client had already handled the hardest part, disabling the building's main security system for a 1-hour window, midnight to 1 a.m. All I had to do was bypass the penthouse's private system, which was offline, separate from the building's network. Child's play, they said. I spent 3 days prepping. Memorized every exit, every blind spot. Ran simulations in my head until I could walk the penthouse blindfolded. I even scoped the building in person, posing as a delivery guy to test the lobby guards. They were lazy, distracted by their phones. Easy. Too easy, maybe, but I was too focused on the payout to care. The night of the job, I was calm. Cold. That's how I always worked. You don't survive 10 years by letting your heart race. I dressed in black, nothing flashy, just functional. Gloves, boots, a slim pack with my tools, lockpicks, a mini EMP device, a glass cutter, and a burner phone for emergencies. I took a cab to the Magnificent Mile, got out a block away, and blended into the late-night crowd. Chicago never sleeps, not really. Even at 11:45 p.m., the streets were alive with tourists and drunks. The John Hancock Center loomed like a monolith, its red antennas piercing the sky. I slipped into an alley across the street, where a service entrance waited. The client's intel was good. The lock was exactly as described, a standard mag lock I could bypass with a quick pulse from the EMP. The door clicked open, and I was in. The service corridors were a maze of concrete and pipes, lit by flickering fluorescence. I moved fast, sticking to the shadows, following the mental map I'd burned into my brain. The client's window was tight, midnight to 1 a.m., and I wasn't about to waste it. By 11:55, I was at the penthouse elevator, tucked away in a restricted maintenance shaft. The elevator was old school, a manual override system that didn't rely on the building's main grid. I popped the panel, rewired the controls, and the doors slid open. The ride up was silent except for the hum of the cables. I checked my watch, 11:58. 2 minutes to spare. My pulse was steady, my hands rock solid. This was my element. The elevator dinged, and the doors opened directly into the penthouse. It was like stepping into a movie. Floor-to-ceiling windows with a view of Lake Michigan, dark and endless. Marble floors, modern art on the walls, furniture that probably cost more than my entire life. The air smelled like money, clean, sterile, untouchable. I didn't waste time gawking. The closet was in the master bedroom, second door on the right. I moved like a shadow, silent, precise. The closet was bigger than my apartment. Rows of suits, dresses, shoes lined up like soldiers. The false panel was exactly where the client said it would be, behind a rack of fur coats. I slid it aside, revealing a sleek black safe, digital keypad, no visible seams. High-end, but nothing I hadn't cracked before. I pulled out my decoder, a custom job I'd built myself, and got to work. The numbers ticked by, the safe circuits humming as my device did its dance. That's when I heard it. A voice. "Welcome, Daniel." My real name. Not shade. Not some alias. Daniel. My blood turned to ice. I froze, my hands still on the decoder, my eyes darting around the closet. The voice was coming from the ceiling, no, the walls. The whole damn room. It was soft, almost polite, but it carried a weight that made my skin crawl. "You're early," the voice said. Impressive. I didn't move. Didn't breathe. My first thought was a trap. The client had sold me out. The cops? No, they wouldn't know my name. Nobody knew my name. I'd spent years making sure of that. I yanked the decoder off the safe and back toward the door, my hand on the burner phone in my pocket. No signal. Of course. Don't leave yet, Daniel, the voice said, almost amused. You're so close. I bolted for the elevator. Forget the safe, forget the drive. $500,000 wasn't worth this. I hit the call button, but the doors didn't open. The panel was dead. I pried it open, checked the wiring. Someone had cut it. Not just disabled. Cut. I was locked in. My heart was pounding now, the calm I'd prided myself on unraveling. I scanned the room for another exit. The windows were triple pane, bulletproof, no way to cut through in time. The stairwell was on the other side of the penthouse, past the security door I didn't have the code for. I was trapped. And the voice wasn't done. You didn't think it would be that easy, did you? It said. Open the safe, Daniel. Finish the job. I didn't know who was on the other end, but they knew me. They knew everything. And they weren't letting me leave until I did what they wanted. I stood there, frozen in the penthouse closet, the voice echoing in my skull like a bad dream I couldn't shake. Open the safe, Daniel. Finish the job. My real name hung in the air, heavy, like a noose tightening around my neck. Nobody was supposed to know that name. I'd buried it years ago, under aliases, fake IDs, and a trail of jobs that never led back to me. But someone had dug it up. Someone who was watching me right now. I forced myself to breathe, slow and steady, the way I'd trained myself to in moments like this. Panic gets you caught. Panic gets you killed. I scanned the closet again, looking for the source of the voice. Speakers, maybe, hidden in the walls. Or a comms system tied to the penthouse's private security. Whoever it was, they had me pinned. The elevator was dead, the windows were a no-go, and the stairwell might as well have been on the moon. I was a rat in a cage, and they were toying with me. Who are you? I said, my voice low, barely a whisper. I didn't expect an answer, but I needed to know if this was a game or a death sentence. The voice didn't respond right away. Silence stretched, thick and suffocating. Then, a soft chuckle, distorted by whatever tech they were using. You don't get to ask questions, Daniel. Not yet. Open the safe. You've got 42 minutes left. 42 minutes? The client's window, midnight to 1 a.m. They were keeping me on their clock. I glanced at my watch, 12:18. My decoder was still in my hand, the safe's keypad blinking faintly. I could walk away, try to find another exit, but something told me that wasn't an option. Not with that voice knowing my name. Not with the elevator cut off. Whoever they were, they'd planned this down to the second. I knelt back in front of the safe, my mind racing. The smart move was to play along, at least until I could figure out what was going on. I plugged the decoder back in, watching the numbers cycle. My hands were steady, but inside, I was fraying. 10 years in this game, and I'd never been cornered like this. Not by cops, not by marks, not by rival crews. I'd always had an out. Always. The safe clicked open at 12:21. A soft hiss, like a snake waking up. Inside was a single data drive, just like the client said. Black, sleek, no markings. I slipped it into my pack, zipping it tight. Whatever was on that drive, it was worth more than $500,000. Nobody goes to this much trouble for pocket change. Good, the voice said, and I swear I could hear a smile in it. Now take it to the balcony. There's a case waiting for you. Balcony? I said, standing up. You didn't mention any balcony. Plans change, Daniel? Move. I didn't like it. The balcony wasn't part of the client's specs. No mention of it in the floor plans, no contingencies for an outdoor drop. This was a deviation, and deviations meant traps. But I didn't have a choice. I stepped out of the closet, moving slow, my eyes scanning every corner of the penthouse. The place was too quiet, too perfect. No signs of life, no dishes in the sink, no shoes by the door. It didn't feel lived in. It felt staged. The balcony doors were at the far end of the living room, framed by those massive windows. I crossed the marble floor, my boots barely making a sound. The city glittered below, a sea of lights stretching to the horizon. Chicago always looked alive from up high, like it could swallow you whole if you let it. I slid the glass door open and stepped outside. The wind hit me hard, cold and sharp, whipping at my jacket. The balcony was wide, with a glass railing that made my stomach lurch. I'm not afraid of heights, but standing on the edge of the 99th floor will make anyone rethink their life choices. There, in the corner, was a black metal case, about the size of a briefcase. No lock, no markings. Just sitting there, waiting. I crouched beside it, checking for wires, sensors, anything that screamed bomb. I'd seen jobs go south like this before. Clients double-crossing you, leaving surprises that end with you in pieces. But the case looked clean. Too clean. I popped it open. Inside was a foam insert with a slot shaped for the data drive. Nothing else. Place the drive in the case, the voice said, now coming from a small speaker embedded in the railing. They were watching me, probably through a camera I couldn't see. Do it now. I hesitated. This was the point of no return. Hand over the drive, and I was at their mercy. Keep it, and I might have leverage. But leverage against who? I didn't even know who I was dealing with. My gut told me to stall, to buy time, but the clock was ticking. 12:27. I pulled the drive from my pack and set it in the foam. The case snapped shut on its own, a magnetic lock sealing it tight. Before I could react, the speaker crackled again. Excellent. Now, Daniel, we need to talk about your exit. My exit. The words hit like a punch. You said clean in, clean out. I snapped, standing up. The elevator isn't an option. The voice cut in. You didn't think it would be that simple, did you? There's a new path. Look down. I leaned over the railing, my heart hammering. Below, on the 98th floor, was another balcony, smaller, maybe 10 feet down. A rope was coiled at the edge of my balcony, secured to a metal anchor. No harness, no safety gear. Just a rope and a drop that would kill me if I slipped. You're insane, I said, more to myself than the voice. I'm not climbing down there. You will, the voice said, calm as ever. Or you'll stay up there until the security system comes back online. Your choice. 34 minutes. I gripped the railing, my knuckles white. I'd done climbs before, warehouses, low-rise offices, but never on a skyscraper, never with a voice in my head calling the shots. I tested the rope, pulling hard. It held, but that didn't mean I trusted it. I glanced back at the penthouse, half hoping for another way out. Nothing. The elevator was still dead, the stairwell locked. This was it. I slung the rope over the edge, my hands moving on autopilot. Muscle memory took over, the way it always did when things got bad. I tied a quick knot around my waist, securing myself to the anchor. If I fell, it wouldn't save me, but it might slow me down enough to curse my life choices on the way. I climbed over the railing, my boots scraping against the glass, and started my descent. The wind was relentless, tugging at me like it wanted me dead. The rope burned through my gloves, and every muscle in my body screamed to stop. I didn't look down. Never looked down. 10 feet felt like 10 miles, but I made it, landing hard on the 98th floor balcony. My legs shook, but I was alive. For now. The balcony was empty except for a single glass door leading into what looked like an office. The voice came again, this time from my burner phone, which I hadn't touched since I got here. The screen was lit up, showing a call from an unknown number. "Inside," the voice said. "Keep moving." I smashed the glass door with my elbow, not bothering with finesse. The office was dark, filled with desks and computers, all powered down. No guards, no cameras, at least none I could see. I moved through it, following the voice's directions, left, right, down a hallway. Every step felt like I was walking deeper into a trap, but what choice did I have? The data drive was gone, the case was locked, and I was playing their game now. The hallway led to a service stairwell, different from the one in the client's plans. This one was narrow, industrial, the kind of place maintenance crews used. I pushed the door open, expecting alarms to blare. Nothing. Just silence and the faint hum of the building's HVAC system. "Down," the voice said. "All the way." I started descending, my boots echoing on the metal steps. The stairwell seemed endless, spiraling down into the dark. My watch said 12:36. 24 minutes left. I didn't know what happened when the clock hit 0, but I wasn't eager to find out. The voice kept guiding me, its tone never changing, calm, precise, like it was reading from a script. By the time I hit the 90th floor, I was sweating despite the cold. My legs burned, my hands ached from gripping the rope. I stopped to catch my breath, leaning against the wall. That's when I noticed it, a faint red light blinking in the corner of the stairwell. A camera. Not part of the building's main system, this was private, hidden. They were watching every move. "Who are you?" I said again, louder this time. "What do you want?" The voice didn't answer. Instead, the stairwell door above me slammed open. Footsteps, heavy and fast, coming down. Not one person, multiple. Guards? Cops? Worse? I didn't wait to find out. I bolted down the stairs, taking them two at a time, my pack bouncing against my back. The voice stayed silent, but I could feel it, like a presence in my head, guiding me deeper into the building. At the 85th floor, the stairwell ended. Just a locked door, no handle, no keypad. I slammed my shoulder against it, but it didn't budge. The footsteps were closer now, maybe 2 floors above. I pulled out my lockpicks, my hands shaking for the first time in years. The lock was complex, a deadbolt with a magnetic override. I didn't have the tools for this, not in the time I had. "Open it," the voice said, and I heard a click. The door swung inward, revealing a hallway lit by dim emergency lights. I stumbled through, my heart pounding so hard I thought it might burst. The footsteps stopped, like whoever was chasing me had vanished. But I wasn't stupid enough to believe I was safe. The hallway stretched on, lined with unmarked doors. The voice guided me to one at the end, a heavy steel thing that looked like it belonged in a bank vault. It was already cracked open, just enough for me to slip through. Inside was a room unlike anything I'd expected. Concrete walls, no windows, a single metal table in the center. On the table was another burner phone, screen glowing. I picked it up. "What is this?" I said, my voice hoarse. "Congratulations, Daniel," the voice said. "You're halfway there. Now the real job begins." I stood in that concrete room, clutching the burner phone like it was a lifeline, even though it felt more like a leash. The voice on the other end had just said, "You're halfway there. Now the real job begins." Halfway? I'd cracked the safe, dropped the drive, climbed down a skyscraper like a damn fool, and now I was in some basement-level vault with no idea where I was or who was pulling the strings. The air was thick, stale, like the room hadn't been opened in years. My watch read 12:44 a.m. 16 minutes until the client's window closed, and I still didn't know what game I was playing. The room was bare except for that metal table and the phone. No windows, no vents, just a single steel door behind me, the one I'd come through. I tried it. Locked. Of course. The red light of a camera blinked in the corner, same as the stairwell. They were still watching. My chest tightened, not from fear, not yet, but from the realization that I wasn't in control anymore. I'd spent a decade mastering this game, slipping through cracks, outsmarting systems, always one step ahead. Now, I was a pawn, and I didn't even know the board. "What do you want?" I said into the phone, my voice sharper than I meant. "I did your job. I got the drive. It's in the case. Let me out." The voice laughed, soft and distorted, like it was savoring my frustration. "You think this is about the drive, Daniel? The drive was just the key. The real prize is you." My stomach dropped. Me? I'd been careful, obsessive, even. No paper trail, no connections, no one who knew my face and my real name. But this voice, this shadow on the other end, had peeled back every layer I'd built. I gripped the phone tighter, my knuckles aching. "You've got the wrong guy," I said, testing them. "I'm just a hired hand." "No, Daniel," the voice said, almost gentle now. "You're exactly who we need. Check the table." I glanced at the metal table. It was empty except for the phone I was holding. Or so I thought. As I stepped closer, I noticed a faint seam in the surface, barely visible under the dim light. I ran my fingers along it, and a panel clicked open, revealing a hidden compartment. Inside was a small black box, no bigger than a deck of cards, with a single button and a digital display showing a countdown, 1500 hours. 15 minutes. "What is this?" I said, my voice steady but my mind screaming. "A bomb? A tracker? Something worse?" "Your next task," the voice said. "Press the button. Start the timer. Then follow my instructions. And if I don't?" The voice didn't hesitate. "Then you stay in this room. Forever." I stared at the box. My hands were shaking now, just enough to piss me off. I'd faced down armed guards, tripped alarms, even taken a bullet once in a job gone south. But this was different. This wasn't about skill or speed. This was personal. They knew me, and they were playing with me. I pressed the button. The timer started ticking down, 14:59, 14:58. "Good choice," the voice said. "Now listen carefully. There's a panel on the east wall. Open it." I scanned the room. The east wall was just concrete, no seams, no handles. I ran my hands over it, feeling for anything out of place. My fingers caught on a slight ridge, and I pressed hard. A section of the wall slid back, revealing a narrow tunnel, barely wide enough for me to fit. It was dark, the kind of dark that swallows light. A faint hum came from inside, like machinery waking up. "Move," the voice said. "You don't have time to think." I grabbed the black box, shoving it into my pack, and crawled into the tunnel. The walls were tight, brushing my shoulders, and the air smelled like rust and oil. My knees scraped against the rough floor as I moved, my flashlight cutting through the gloom. The tunnel sloped downward, twisting left then right, like it was burrowing into the guts of the building. My watch was useless now, no signal, no way to know how far I'd gone. The timer on the box was my only clock, 13:42. The voice stayed with me, crackling through the phone I'd clipped to my belt. "You're doing well, Daniel. Keep going. You're almost there." "Almost where?" I snapped, my voice echoing in the tight space. "What's the point of this?" "You'll see," the voice said. "You always were good at following orders, weren't you? Even back in Detroit." I stopped cold, my breath catching. Detroit. Nobody knew about Detroit. Not the cops, not my old crew, nobody. I'd been 16, running with a small-time gang, boosting cars and breaking into warehouses. A kid with no future, desperate for a way out. I'd left that life behind, burned every bridge, erased every trace. But this voice, this thing, knew. "How do you know about Detroit?" I said, my voice low, dangerous. I wasn't just talking to the phone anymore. I was talking to them, whoever they were. "Keep moving," the voice said, ignoring me. "The tunnel ends in a door. Open it." I wanted to scream, to smash the phone, to turn back and take my chances with the locked room. But the timer was ticking, 12:19, and the footsteps from the stairwell were still in my head, real or not. I crawled faster, my knees raw, my breath ragged. The tunnel ended at a metal hatch, rusted but solid. I pushed it open, half expecting an ambush. Instead, I tumbled into a massive room, like a warehouse carved into the building's foundation. The ceiling was high, lined with pipes and ducts, and the walls were stacked with crates, servers, and blinking equipment. It looked like a data center, but wrong, too old, too industrial, like something from a Cold War bunker. The air was cold, humming with electricity. In the center of the room was a single chair, bolted to the floor, with restraints on the arms and legs. My blood ran cold. This wasn't a heist. This was something else. "Sit," the voice said. "No way," I said, backing toward the hatch. "I'm done. You got your drive. Let me out." The hatch slammed shut behind me, the lock clicking with a finality that made my skin crawl. The timer on the box read 11:03. The voice didn't waver. "Sit, Daniel, or the timer stops early." I looked at the chair, then at the room. No exits, no windows, just that camera in the corner, its red eye staring. The restraints on the chair were leather, worn but strong. This wasn't a job anymore. This was a test. Or a trap. Or both. I sat. The chair was cold, the metal biting through my jacket. The restraints snapped shut on their own, locking my wrists and ankles. My heart was pounding now, my cool shattered. I'd been in tight spots before, but nothing like this. Nothing this deliberate. "Good," the voice said. Now we can talk. The lights in the room dimmed, and a screen flickered to life on the far wall. It showed a grainy video feed, me in the penthouse, cracking the safe. Me climbing down the balcony. Me crawling through the tunnel. Every move I'd made tonight, recorded in real time. Then the feed changed. Older footage, shaky, from a street camera. Detroit 10 years ago. Me, barely a kid, jimmying a car door in an alley. My face was younger, softer, but unmistakable. "You've been busy, Daniel," the voice said. "We've been watching for a long time." "Who's we?" I said, straining against the restraints. "What do you want with me?" The screen flickered again, showing a man in a suit, his face blurred. He was sitting in an office, hands folded, like he was about to sell me a car. "You're a tool, Daniel," the voice said, now matching the man on the screen. "A very good one. But tools need to be sharpened. Tested. Tonight was your test." "Test for what?" I spat. "You got your drive. You got your game. Let me go." The man on the screen leaned forward. "The drive was bait. You were the target. We needed to know if you were still the best. If you could handle the pressure. You passed. Barely." I laughed, bitter and hollow. "You call this passing? I'm strapped to a chair in a bunker." "You're alive," the voice said. "That's more than most get." The timer on the box hit 10 o'clock. The screen went dark, and the room fell silent except for the hum of the servers. My mind was racing, piecing it together. The client, the voice, the drive, it was all a setup. Not for the data, not for the money. For me. But why? I wasn't special. I was just a thief, a ghost who slipped through the cracks. What did they want with a ghost? The voice came back, softer now, almost intimate. "You have a choice, Daniel. Join us or stay here. The timer's ticking." "Join you?" I said. "Who the hell are you?" The screen lit up again, but this time it wasn't footage. It was a symbol, a circle with a jagged line through it, like a broken gear. I'd seen it before years ago, on the dark web. Whispers of a group, not a gang, not a corporation, but something else. Something that operated in the shadows of the shadows, pulling strings nobody could see. "We're the ones who make the world turn," the voice said. "And we need people like you. People who can disappear. People who can get things done." I stared at the symbol, my mouth dry. The timer read 9:12. The restraints were still tight, the chair unyielding. I'd spent my life running from cages, but this one was different. This one knew my name. The symbol on the screen burned into my eyes. A broken gear, jagged and cold, like a scar carved into the world. I'd seen it before, flickering on dark web forums, whispered about in backrooms where thieves like me traded rumors. They called it the Order, or something close to it. No one knew who they were, not really. A cult, a cabal, a machine that chewed up people like me and spit out whatever served their purpose. And now I was strapped to a chair in their basement, with a timer ticking down, 9:12, 9:11, and a voice in my head offering me a choice I didn't want to make. "Join us or stay here," the voice said, calm as a priest delivering a sermon. "The timer's ticking, Daniel." I strained against the restraints, the leather biting into my wrists. The chair was bolted to the floor, unyielding, like the room itself. Concrete walls, humming servers, that damn camera in the corner with its red eye staring. My heart was hammering, but I forced my voice to stay steady. Join you? I don't even know who you are. What's the pitch? Money? Power? Or do you just like screwing with people? The screen flickered, and the blurred man in the suit leaned forward, his face still a smudge of pixels. We don't need to sell you, Daniel. You're already ours. You've been ours since Detroit. There it was again, Detroit. That word was a knife, twisting deeper every time they said it. I'd left that city behind at 16, running from a life of petty theft and broken promises. I'd rebuilt myself, erased every trace of the kid I'd been. But they knew. They'd always known. The screen shifted, showing another clip, me, maybe 20, breaking into a jewelry store in Philly. Then another, older, me slipping out of a bank in Miami with a duffel bag full of cash. My whole career, laid out like a highlight reel. They hadn't just found me. They'd been tracking me for years. You're not a thief, the voice said. You're an asset. We've watched you grow, Daniel. You're precise, adaptable, invisible. Exactly what we need. For what? I snapped, my voice cracking despite myself. What's the endgame here? The voice didn't answer right away. The timer on the black box hit 8:45. The room felt smaller, the air heavier. Then the man on the screen spoke, his tone almost sad. The world's changing. Systems are breaking. We're the ones who keep it spinning. But we need people who can move through the cracks, people who can take what others protect. That's you, Daniel. That's always been you. I laughed, a dry, bitter sound that echoed off the walls. You think I'm gonna sign up for your secret club because you've got a creepy slideshow? You locked me in a chair. You cut off my exits. You're not hiring me, you're blackmailing me. The voice didn't flinch. Call it what you want. The choice is real. Join us, and you walk out. Refuse, and the timer runs out. You know what happens then. I didn't. Not exactly. But I could guess. The box wasn't a bomb. I'd have smelled the chemicals, seen the wiring. It was something else, something worse. A tracker, maybe, broadcasting my location to every cop in Chicago. Or a kill switch, tied to the room, the building, the whole damn operation. I'd seen jobs go bad before, but this was surgical. They weren't just playing with me. They were rewriting the rules. The timer hit 8 o'clock. I leaned back in the chair, my mind racing. I could feel the old Daniel, the one who'd survived a decade of heists, clawing to the surface. The one who never got caught, never got rattled. But he was slipping, drowned out by the kid from Detroit who'd always known the world would catch up someday. I closed my eyes, just for a second, and saw my life, the jobs, the money, the nights spent running. I told myself I was free, but I'd been running from this moment my whole life. What do you want me to do? I said finally, my voice low, defeated. The screen flickered, and the symbol vanished. The man in the suit was gone, replaced by a live feed of the room I was in. Me, strapped to the chair, looking like a man who'd lost everything. The voice came back, sharper now, like it had been waiting for this. There's a job. One last job. Do it and you're free. No strings, no cameras. You can disappear for good. What's the job? I said, hating myself for asking. The restraints clicked open, the leather straps falling away. I rubbed my wrists, my skin raw, and stood up. The steel door behind me unlocked with a heavy thud. The voice didn't miss a beat. Take the box. Follow the path. We'll guide you. I grabbed the black box, its timer now at 7:22. The screen went dark, and the room was silent again, except for the hum of the servers. I moved to the door, my legs unsteady, and stepped into another hallway. This one was different, cleaner, brighter, with glass walls and motion sensor lights that flicked on as I passed. It felt like a corporate office, not the industrial maze I'd crawled through. The voice came through the phone again, clipped to my belt. Left at the end. Then down. I followed, my boots echoing on the polished floor. The hallway led to a glass elevator, already open, waiting. I stepped inside, and it started moving before I touched a button. Down fast, the numbers on the panel blurring, 80, 75, 70. The timer read 6:48. My stomach churned, not from the drop but from the realization that I was in too deep to turn back. Whoever these people were, they owned me now. At least until I could find a crack to slip through. The elevator stopped at a sub-basement level, the doors opening to a loading dock. It was empty except for a black van, its engine idling. The back doors were open, revealing a single metal crate inside. The voice spoke again. "Put the box in the crate. Then get in the driver's seat." I hesitated. Driving meant exposure, cameras, license plates, witnesses. But staying wasn't an option. I walked to the van, the timer at 6:15, and placed the box in the crate. It locked shut, just like the case on the balcony. I climbed into the driver's seat, my hands gripping the wheel. A GPS screen on the dashboard lit up, showing a route out of Chicago, toward an industrial park on the outskirts. No address, just coordinates. "Drive," the voice said. "Don't stop. Don't deviate." I pulled out of the loading dock, the van's tires screeching on the concrete. The city was still alive outside, oblivious to the nightmare I was living. The GPS led me through back streets, avoiding main roads, cameras, cops. The timer was down to 5:30. I didn't know what happened when it hit 0, but I wasn't planning to find out. The voice stayed silent as I drove, but I could feel it, like a weight on my chest. I kept replaying their words. The drive was bait. You were the target. This wasn't about the day to drive, or the money, or even the job. It was about control. They'd lured me in, tested me, broken me down. And now they were sending me somewhere, for something. The van felt like a coffin, and I was driving it myself. The industrial park was a ghost town, empty warehouses, rusted fences, no streetlights. The GPS pinged, directing me to a low building with no windows. The doors were open, and I pulled the van inside. The timer read 3:12. The voice came back, colder now. "Get out. Take the crate." I did as told, my body moving on autopilot. The crate was heavy, heavier than it should have been for just the box. I carried it into the building, a cavernous space lit by a single bulb. In the center was a man, real this time, not a screen. He was tall, dressed in black, his face half hidden by a hood. No blur, no distortion, just a shadow made flesh. "You're late," he said, his voice matching the one from the phone. No distortion now. It was deep, calm, final. "I'm here," I said, setting the crate down. "What's this about?" He stepped closer, and I saw his eyes, gray, empty, like he'd seen too much and felt nothing. "You're the job, Daniel. You always were. The drive, the safe, the chase. It was all to get you here." I backed up, my hand instinctively reaching for the knife in my pack. "Why me?" He smiled, thin and sharp. "Because you're a ghost. No family, no ties, no one to miss you. But you're good. Too good to waste. We need ghosts, Daniel. For what's coming? What's coming? I said, my voice barely a whisper. He didn't answer. Instead, he gestured to the crate. Open it. I knelt, my hands shaking as I pried the lid off. Inside was the black box, still ticking, 208. Below it was a folder, thick with papers. I pulled it out, flipping it open. Photos, documents, names. My name. My face. Every job I'd ever done, every alias, every city. And more, blueprints, schematics, plans for something big. A heist, but not like any I'd seen. Not a bank, not a vault. A facility, government level, with security that made the John Hancock look like a gas station. You're going to do this for us, the man said. Or you don't leave this room. I looked at the timer, 1:45. Then at the man, his gray eyes unblinking. The truth hit me like a freight train. There was no choice. There never had been. The job, the voice, the chase, it was all a cage built just for me. I'd spent my life running, but I'd run right into their hands. What happens when the timer hits 0? I said, my voice hollow. He didn't smile this time. You don't want to know. I stood, the folder in my hands, my mind screaming to fight, to run, to do something. But there was nowhere to go. The timer hit 1 o'clock. The man stepped back, and the bulb above us flickered out. Darkness swallowed the room, and I heard his voice one last time, not from the phone but from the shadows. Welcome to the order, Daniel. The timer hit 0. A sharp click echoed in the dark, and something cold clamped around my wrist. Not a restraint, but a bracelet, heavy and electronic. A tracker. A leash. I was theirs now, and I knew it. The heist wasn't over. It was just beginning. I'm sitting here now, telling you this, because I can't keep it inside anymore. I don't know if I'm still in Chicago, or if I'm even me anymore. The bracelet's still on, blinking softly, reminding me who I belonged to. I did their job, the one in the folder. I won't tell you what it was. Not because I'm protecting them, but because I'm protecting you. Some things you're better off not knowing. I thought I was free once, slipping through the world like a ghost. But ghosts don't escape. They haunt. And I'm haunted every day by the voice, the timer, the choice I didn't make. They paid me to break in. Getting out? That was never part of the deal.